Hello. Did Yahushua come to the earth and change all the commands? Did he abolish the Torah? Did he abolish the Ten Commandments? Did he give us two new commands? To love Yahuah, our Elohim, with all our heart, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves? Are these new commands? Some people have asked me lately why the Ten Commandments in the BYNV sound different than the Ten Commandments in the New King James Version. And they've also asked, why do we have to obey the Ten Commandments since they were replaced with the first and second greatest command? And why did Yahushua say that all the Torah and prophets hang on these two commands? And he also said that these two commands, the first and second greatest command, that there was no other commands greater than these two. So there seems to be some confusion here about the Ten Commandments, the commands in the Torah, and the first and second greatest command spoken about by Yahushua in Mark, especially is the one we'll focus on. And so let's have a conversation about the commands and see if we can clarify or answer some of these questions that's come up. So what we'll do is I'll take the BYNV. Anybody's familiar with this? It's authored, translated from Hebrew directly into English, and it has replaced many of the or all of the original names, the way that they sounded in their origins of the Hebrew language. And then we have New King James Version here, laying side by side, and we'll compare them and see if in fact the BYNV sounds differently than the NKJV. But first of all, before we start doing that, I would like to explain a little bit about the Ten Commandments and the rest of the commands that are found in the Torah, which it means instructions. Torah means instructions. It is the first 5 books in the Old Testament, or the first 5 books, or the 5 books of Moshe or Moses. Okay, some people call it the book of the law, or call it law, but that's a misinterpretation, and it's an error. Okay, Torah means instructions, and it's the first volume of the Tanakh, and it contains the first 5 books of Moshe. And then it is part of the Tanakh. The T in Tanakh means Torah, and then the N is prophets, and then the K is writings, beginning with Psalms. All right? And this is what Yahushua and his apostles were teaching and referencing during their time in the first century as they walked on the earth. They didn't have the Bible in any form whatsoever. Okay? They only had scrolls and writings from the Torah, prophets, and the writings, which is the Psalms and Proverbs and things like that. So let's start this conversation and study. Let's go straight to Mark, chapter 12. And one of the scribes coming near, hearing them reasoning together, knowing that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the foremost command of all? And Yahushua answered him, the first of all the commands is, Hear, O Israel, Yahuah our Elohim. Yahuah is one. That's Yahuah himself saying that. Yahuah is one. It came straight from the mouth of your Creator. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind and with all your strength. This is the foremost command, the first and the greatest command. And the second is like it, is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other command greater than these. There is no other command greater than these. All right, so here we find the two greatest commands. And the scribe said to him, Well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth. For there is one Elohim, and there is no other besides him. And to love him with all the heart and with all the understanding and with all the being and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself is more than all the burnt offerings and offerings. And when Yahushua saw that he answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the reign of Yahuwah. And after that, no one was bold enough to question him. So, this is where a lot of people, uninformed teachers and uninformed students alike, have a misunderstanding that Yahushua gave them two new commands, okay, and abolished all the other ones, okay? But this is not true. Those very commands are found in the Torah. They were referencing the Torah. The New Testament, or the BIBLE, did not exist. Okay, period. It did not exist till the 4th century, hundreds of years later. All right? And the proof of that is all we need to do is merely go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah our Elohim. Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might. There it is. That's the first and greatest command Yahushua just talked about in Mark. And then we go over to Leviticus 19, verse 18. We read, And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuwah. And there's the second greatest command that Yahuwah or Yahushua just talked about in Mark. And these are the two commands that he said that there is no other commands greater than these two. And these are the two. They're found in the Torah. They're not new. All right? So, what does that mean for us? I mean, how do we put all that together then? Well, actually, the truth is that the 10 Commandments or the 10 words or Dabarim are not in the 611 Mitzvot. Okay? Mitzvot is a Hebrew word that means commands. No one really knows how many mitzvot or commands there really are. It's really, a private interpretation type understanding nobody really agrees upon. But basically, the vast majority of people believe that there are 611 mitzvot or commands in the Torah. Many will add 2, and they will add. They have the 10 words, which is the 10 commandments or the covenant of love, 611 mitzvot or commands, and some people add 2. The first 2 commands in the covenant of love, or the 10 commandments, number 1 and number 2, they add to the 611. Okay, so then that gives them 613 mitzvot or commandments in the Torah. That's where they get the 613 from. But this 611 is questionable. Okay, it's not engraved in stone. There's many opinions on how many there really is, but the vast majority go with 611. All right, the 2 greatest commands, like I said, it's found in Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18 are the ones that Yahushua was speaking about in Mark, are found within the 611 mitzvots. These 2 commands are counted in this number right here, 611. The 2 is the first and second command in the covenant of love. That's how they're getting the 16. But these 2 greatest commands are in the count of the 611. All right, so that's where they're getting the 613 mitzvots. It's all entwingled like a spider web. Okay, so they're not new commands at all, really. So before we compare the 2 different translations, let's study just a little bit about the 613 mitzvots. Okay, a lot of it's tradition, a lot of it's scriptural, some's in the Talmud, many different opinions, like I said, but it's important that to understand, get a good understanding of what people are talking about when they say the 10 commandments, the 2 greatest commands that the Torah and the prophets hang on, or no other command is greater than these 2, or the 611 mitzvots, or the 613 mitzvots, which includes the first 2 commandments of the covenant of love, or what they call the 10 commandments. So you put it all together is something wise and something that we should have a really good understanding of, especially if it comes up in a conversation while you're giving testimony or witnessing to somebody. Okay. So let's learn a little bit more about the 613 mitzvots, and then we'll compare the 2 translations. According to the Jewish tradition, the scriptures enumerates in total 613 commands. Okay, and in Hebrew, it's called mitzvot. Commands is mitzvot in Hebrew. The Talmud tells us that there are 613 mitzvot or commands in the Torah. 248 are positive commands, and 365 are negative commands. However, it does not provide us with a list. The Talmud does not give us a list of all the commands. That's why there's different opinions. The number of these precepts is full of symbolic meanings. In fact, according to the teaching of rabbinical Judaism or tradition, 248, traditionally the 248 was considered, in fact, the number of bones of the human body. So 248 bones in the human body, which are the positive commands, and the 365 are notoriously the days of the year. How many days is in 1 year? And also the ligaments that connect the bones together are 365. Kind of ironic. Through this number, the Torah seems to suggest that all our 248 bones must perform the 248 prescribed actions, and that in each of the 365 days of the year, we must commit ourselves not to violate the 365 negative precepts or commands. In practice, however, not all of these precepts are practical, and not all by everybody. Some need the existence of the temple in Jerusalem that's no longer there, which according to the rabbinical tradition, it can only be rebuilt when the Messiah comes and gathers all the 10 lost tribes of the people back to Israel. So a lot of the commands are not abolished, but put in the back burner, as we say, okay, because they can't be obeyed because there's no temple left in Jerusalem to obey them. They need the temple to be able to obey those commands. So that pretty much that eliminates some of the commands right there. That's related to that old priesthood. Several great Jewish scholars have compiled a complete listing of these mitzvot. Although they all agree on the vast majority of the commands, they do agree concerning, they don't agree on the vast majority, they do, but they do disagree concerning the number of them. Okay, so they agree on the commands, but they disagree concerning how many there are. The arguments are for scholastic purposes only, for they do not disagree over any actual commandment, whether it is mandatory or forbidden. They only disagree whether certain commandments are independent commands, or perhaps they are part of another commandment and not counted on their own. So that's where the difference, the contrast comes in. So they've come up with a list mainly following the opinion of a man named Maimonides, and he lists them in a magnum opus, the Mishnah Torah. But even if Rambam's list is probably the most widely accepted list, also his opinion isn't flawless either. Okay, so it's the most recognized list of the 613 commands in order, but it's not flawless. Okay, nobody really knows. Like I said, there's a lot of different opinions. I mean, it's not a wide contrast or spectrum of contrast. Okay, it's narrow. All right, so it's close. Let's put it that way. We won't have time to go through all 613 commands, but I'm going to hit some of the more major ones here real quick. Number one, to know there is an Elohim. Okay, that's right. That's the first commandment in the coming of love. I am Yahuah your Elohim. So to know there is an Elohim. Okay. Number two, second command, and these are in order, not to entertain thoughts of other Elohims besides Elohim. I have no other before my face is the same command here. Okay, so that's the first two that has been added. Okay, that's the two that make up the 613 from the 611. They come out of that first command up there. To know that Yahuah is one. Okay, to know that Yahuah is one. And that's in Deuteronomy 6. So there's your first and greatest command. Comes out Deuteronomy 6:4. To know that Yahuah is one. That's number 3. So they put that's right on that list of mitzvot. So that's where that fits in. It's in the list of 613 mitzvot. The first greatest command. Number 4 is to love Elohim. 5, to fear Elohim. 6, to sanctify Elohim's name. So that would be number 3 up there. You do not cast the name of Yahuah your Elohim to ruin. So that would probably fit in there, you know. But it's not in the commandments itself. It's a part of the 613 Mitzvot. Not to destroy objects associated with Elohim's name, to listen to the prophet speaking in Elohim's name, not to test the prophet unduly, to walk on Elohim's ways, to cleave to those who know Elohim, to love your neighbor as yourself. That's number 13 on the list. So that's Leviticus 19:18. There it is, folks. The second greatest command found in the list of 613 mitzvot. Okay, so there it is. It's not a new command. Not to hate your brother in your heart. 18, not to oppress the weak. Number 19, not to gossip about your neighbor. Not to take revenge on your neighbor. That's 20. 21, not to bear a grudge against your neighbor. 22, to teach Torah, to learn Torah and teach it. That's a command found in Deuteronomy 6:7. To honor those who teach and know Torah, not to inquire into idolatry. You shouldn't want to find out about it. Not to blaspheme. That's 26. 28, not to bow down to idols. That's part of the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20, verse 5. Okay, that's part of that. Not to make an idol for yourself. That's again found in the 10 Commandments, isn't it? Not to make molten deities. That's 30. Number 34, not to rebuild a city that has turned to idol worship. Number 37, not to love idolaters. Number 38, not to cease hating idolaters. Number 39, not to save the idolater. 40, not to say anything in the idolater's defense. Number 41, not to refrain from incriminating the idolater. Number 42, not to prophesy in the name of an idolater. 43, not to listen to a false prophet. You're commanded not to listen to them. So stop watching those YouTube videos, folks, about false prophecy. It's a command. Not to swear in the name of an idol. Number 46. 49, not to pass your children through the fire to Moloch. That's got something to do with Santa Claus there. I mean, we ain't got time to go through all these. Let me scroll way down here. We'll pick it up down here toward the middle somewhere, just to jump around. Number 157, not to lie down or have sex with a male as with a woman. 156, a woman must not have sexual relations with an animal. 155, a man must not have sexual relationships with an animal. 154, not to have sexual relationships with your wife's sister. Just scroll down some more. 230, to estimate the value of consecrated fields. 243, to leave the gleanings of a vineyard. That reminds me of the book of Ruth there. 304, to show reverence for the temple. 303, not to climb steps to the altar. 302, not to build the altar with stones hewn by metal. So I mean, it just goes on and on. I'm going to scroll way down here now. I'm sure you're getting the idea. 532, not to demand collateral from a widow. 134, not to lend with interest toward believers. So you're not allowed to lend your brother money with interest. It's a command. 535, not to borrow with interest toward believers. 537, lend to and borrow from Gentiles, disbelievers or idolaters with interest. So if you lend money to a disbeliever or an idolater, you must charge them interest. I mean, just go on and on. Let's go down here in the 600s and see what the last ones are. Here's the last four, or four. Not to 609. Wait a minute. Let's go to 608. He who has taken a wife, built a new home, or planted a vineyard is given a year to rejoice with his possessions. I like that one. 609. Not to demand from the above any involvement, communal or military. So first year you don't have to do any of that. 610. Not to panic and retreat during battle. Wow. 611. Keep the laws of the captive woman. 612. Not to sell her into slavery. 613. Not to retain her for servitude after having relations with her. Therefore, many of the mitzvot cannot be observed now, following the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, although they still retain religious significance. According to one standard reckoning, there are 77 positive and 194 negative commands that can be observed today in our modern era, of which there are 26 commands that apply only within the land of Israel. Furthermore, there are some time-related commandments from which women are exempt. Examples include shofar, sukkah, or tents, luvlaf, tzitzith, and tefillin. Some depend on the special status of a person in Judaism, such as a high priest or priest, while others apply only to men, or others apply only to women. Okay? So, there we go. Those are the 613 mitzvots that we find in the Torah, according to the Talmud. All right? And leaders, Hebrew leaders, Jewish leaders. So, hopefully now we have a better understanding of mitzvot, the Ten Commandments, the two greatest commands, and how it all weaves together, and it's also standalone. The 10 words are a standalone blood covenant. Okay? The two greatest commands are not standalone, but they stand out, as no other commands are greater than those two. Okay? That's out of that whole list. So, we find that not all, at least maybe they were, because we didn't have time to go through them, but maybe not all of the 10 Commandments was on the list. Maybe they were. I'm not sure. But the 10 Commandments, nevertheless, are standalone. It's a standalone blood covenant that Yahuah made with his bride, or the children of Israel, his people, his elect. Okay? All right, so let's get into comparing these translations really quick here. I'll start off with reading the Hebrew to English translation, known as the BYNV, and then we'll see what the New King James Version sounds like compared to it, and we'll see if there's this big difference that people are trying to say there is in the commands. So number 1, I am Yahuah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. All right, so number 1 in the NKJV says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. Sounds fairly close to me, other than the verbiage of the name, the false names they're using. Okay, so number 2 in the BYNV says, you do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the Shemayim above, or which is in the Arets beneath, or which is in the Mayim under the Arets. You do not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, Yahuah your Elohim, am a jealous awe, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands to those who love me and guard my commands. So in NKJV says, number 2, you shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them, for I am the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. And that's almost perfectly the same thing. Besides, like I said, that name ain't gonna match, people. Okay, the BYNV uses the true, real Hebrew name. Okay, the NKJV uses substitute names or fictional labels, pagan labels. Okay. So that's going to be the big difference, but concentrate on all the other words. The other words seem to be matching precisely to me, very close anyways. So number 3 in the BYNV. You do not bring the name of Yahuah your Elohim to ruin, for Yahuah does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to ruin. And number 3 in the NKJV says, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. So the big difference here is the word vain and ruin, which basically can mean the same thing. So number 4 in the BYNV says, guard Yom Shabbat, to set it apart as Yahuah your Elohim commanded you. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and that Yahuah your Elohim brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahuah your Elohim commanded you to observe Yom Shabbat. That's the longest command. It has the most words of any other 10 commandments. Okay, so it must be pretty important. It has the most words. Number 4 in the New King James Version says, observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. That's pretty precise, man. That's close. I'm not seeing much difference here other than the name, really. Number 5 in the BYNV. Respect your father and your mother, as Yahuah your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahuah your Elohim is giving you. And in the New King James Version, number 5 reads, honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, that your days may be long, and that it may be well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. That's precise. I mean, it's very close. Number 6 in the BYNV, you do not murder. Number 6 in the NKJV, you do not murder. That's precise. Number 7 in the BYNV, you do not break wedlock. Number 7 in the NKJV, you shall not commit adultery. That's a little bit different, but basically the same thing. Number 8 in the BYNV, you do not steal. Number 8 in the New King James Version is you shall not steal. That's precise. Number 9 in the BYNV, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Number 9 in the New King James Version, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Precise. Number 10 in the BYNV says, you do not covet your neighbor's asha, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And number 10 in the New King James Version says, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything else that is your neighbor's. That's precise. So there's no difference in those, folks. I mean, there's a little bit of verbiage, and like I said, the names, not enough to get excited about, and you surely ain't enough to say that they're totally different. I mean, that's a stretch by a mile, because they're not. They're closer to precise than they are totally different. Okay, it's not even close. So then, the conclusion here is, see if the conclusion's the same. In the BYNV, the conclusion says, these words Yahuah spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a loud voice, and he added no more. In the New King James Version, the conclusion says, these words the Lord spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness, with a loud voice, and he added no more. So yeah, pretty precise. So a lot of people say, well, you can't compare the Ten Commandments is abolished because they are too hard to obey, and that's why he obeyed them for us, and we don't have to because they were too hard for us to obey. They were only given to us to prove to us that we needed the Savior, that we couldn't be good enough to obey him and save ourselves. There's a lot of mixed up truth and a lot of mixed up lies in those statements there. The truth is, they're not too difficult to obey. Which ones are so difficult that you can't obey them? Probably the hardest one up there is to remember Shabbat and guard it as Kadesh, number 4. And that's why he says remember it, because it's easy to forget. But they're not too difficult at all. Matter of fact, let's read a little bit about what Yahushua says about the commandments here real quick. In John 14:15, he says, if you love me, you shall guard my commands. If you love me, you shall guard my commands. If they were too difficult, you wouldn't be making it the point, the proof that you love him. Okay, if you love me, keep my commands. So that if that's going to be the deciding factor that proves your love for him, then why would he tell you to do it if it was too hard? Then nobody would love him. So that makes zero sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. So that's not true. In 1 John 2, 3 we read, and by this we know that we know him, if we guard his commands. That's how you know if you know him, you guard his commands. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. And whoever guards his word, truly the love of Yahuah has been perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. The one who says he lives in him, Yahushua lives in him, ought himself to walk even as he walked, which was obeying the commands of Yahuah. That's how he walks. That's how we're supposed to walk. 1 John 5:2 says, by this we know that we love the children of Yahuah, when we love Yahuah and guard or keep his commands. For this is the love of Yahuah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult, because everyone having been begotten of Yahuah overcomes the world, and overcomes sin. Sin's the wide road, okay? The world is the wide road, okay, that sin's in. Sin's in the world. The world's saturated with sin. All right. And then Revelations 22, verse 14 says, blessed are those doing his commands. Blessed are those doing his commands. Not the ones just believing and not obeying. It doesn't say that. It says the ones that are doing his commands, not just obeying. It doesn't say that. Matter of fact, James says, belief without works is dead. It's worthless. It means nothing. It's just lip service. Oh, I believe. Well, if you believe, then why aren't you obeying him? You must not believe too much because you don't fear him enough to obey his commandments. You ain't believing in him too much, buddy. So I don't believe anybody says, I believe, but they don't obey his commands. Come on, man. That's lip service. That's like telling some woman, I love you, just to get your way with her, and then you turn around and run off and you never do nothing. You don't pay her water bill or help her out do nothing. That's ridiculous. Love is just lip service without action, and belief is just lip service without action. Okay, they both are verbs, and they require action to bring them into a reality. So blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs to the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. But outside are the dogs and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and the idolaters, and all who love and do falsehood, 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 falsehood. I, Yahushua, have sent my messenger to witness to you these in the assemblies. I am the root and the offspring of Dude, the bright and morning star. And the Ruach and the bride say, come. And he who hears, let him say, come. And he who thirsts, come. And he who desires it, take the water of life without pain. Yahuwah said, if you love me, obey my commands. So, therefore, folks, I think we've got a good idea now of what the commands are, okay? And the 10 words of the Balaam, or the covenant of love, okay, teaches us how to love. The first 4 teaches us how to love Yahuah, our Elohim, with all our mind, heart, and strength. And the last 6 teaches us how to obey our neighbor. Okay? And so if we, by obeying the 10 commandments, we are obeying the first 2 greatest commands. So if the first command is to obey Yahuah, your Elohim is one. Yahuah, your Elohim, Yahuah is one. Love him with all your heart, mind, heart, and power or might. And number 2 is love your neighbors yourself. So if you obey the first 4, you're obeying the first greatest command. If you obey the last 6, you're obeying the second greatest command given by Yahushua in Mark. See how that all fits together? And those 2 greatest commands are found in the 613 mitzvots or commands within the Tanakh or the Torah. Woo! So nothing's abolished, folks. You have to believe, and you have to repent, and you have to be water immersed. You have to receive the indwelling spirit of Yahushua, and you have to endure the race by obeying the commands until you die, or Yahushua returns, and changes you in the blink of an eye into immortality. Thank you for watching. And remember to obey the 10 Commandments and prove to Yahuah that you love him. So long, everybody. So long, beloved of Yahuah. Bonus feature time. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah our Elohim, Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Now, I've already wrote them all on the doorposts of my house and on my gates. So in order to obey this command, I'm going to teach the commands of covenant of love to my children. Actually, these are my great-grandchildren. You should teach the kids, your children, every day, the 10 Commandments. Talk to them about them. Think about them every day. Post them on your doors and post them on your gates. So this is how we do it. And usually we try to do it on every Yom Shabbat. That's a good day to do this. You guys ready to study the covenant of love?
Yeah.
Do you know what the covenant of love is?
Yeah. Yahuah's word. Yahuah's word.
Okay, let's study Yahuah's words. Number 1.
Number 1.
I am Yahuah your Elohim.
I'm Yahuah your Elohim.
Have no other before my face.
Have no other before my face.
Number 2.
Number 2.
You do not bow down to images.
You do not bow down to images.
Number 3.
Number 3.
You do not cast the name.
You do not cast the name of Yahuah,
Your Elohim.
your Elohim,
To ruin.
to ruin.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Remember Sabbath.
Remember Shabbat.
Guard it
Guard it
as Kadesh.
as Kadesh.
You know what that means?
No.
That means keep it different from all the other days. It's a special day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No working on the Sabbath. Got to rest. Okay?
Okay.
And no buying and selling either.
Okay.
Not allowed to go to the store.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Respect your father
Respect your father
and your mother.
mother.
Number 6.
Number 6.
You do not murder.
You do not murder.
Number 6.
Number 6.
You do not murder.
Don't murder.
Number 7.
Number 7.
You do not break wedlock.
You do not break wedlock.
Number 8.
Number 8.
You do not steal.
You do not steal.
Number 9.
Number 9.
You do not bear. You do not bear
You do not bear false witness
against your neighbor.
against your neighbor.
Number 10.
Number 10.
You do not covet
You do not covet
your neighbor's wife,
your neighbor's wife, farm,
house,
and house,
field,
field,
servants,
servants,
animals,
animals,
or anything
or anything
belonging to your neighbor.
belonging to your neighbor.
Okay, that's his 10 words. So, I am Yahuah.
I am Yahuah, your Elohim.
That is my name.
That is my name.
Forever.
Forever.
Love me
Love me.
and guard my commands.
Guard my command.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Love one another
Love one another
as I have loved you.
as I have loved you.
Don't forget what Yahushua said. If you love me, obey my commandments. Thank you for watching. And remember to stay in love with Yahushua. Can you tell them that? Say, remember
to stay in love with Yahushua. Bye.
Bye. So long, Netzarim, beloved of Yahuah. So long.
So long.
Living water, Baruch haba Hashem Yahuah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Yahusha, living torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living torah, Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba B'Shem Yahuah. Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuah. I sing out with praise to you.